All right. So this week we have 4 questions. We have 4. All right. Thank you, Jean. We are going to start off with question number 1 from Jacqueline. Jacqueline York. It's a very fancy name. Jacqueline wrote, how do you recommend I handle witnessing, but not necessarily being involved in hostile communication? Oof. Let me explain. I share an office with my office manager, who tends to be unnecessarily hostile with coworkers. I have a question that I'm going to just put as a caveat. I'm not sure if those are her coworkers or yours. That would make a difference. Sometimes she's dismissive. I first ignored the behavior, thinking that she possibly knew something that I didn't. That's a good assumption. But as I've observed, it's more so with people that she just dislikes or whenever she feels that they are suggesting that she's at fault for something. I don't know how to professionally intervene without seeming passive-aggressive. I realize that these are not situations that involve me, but I can't witness unfair treatment by a superior and stay quiet. Help. All right, Jacqueline. I think a lot of us could probably relate to one of your closing comments where you said, I can't witness unfair treatment by a superior and stay quiet. I think most of us could relate to that. I also believe that if you're at work, that's going to be different from if I were on the street. For example, if I were on the street and I was witnessing some unfair treatment or some hostile communication, my options are much more plentiful, on the street. I believe at work, when I'm being paid to do something specific, my options are much more limited. And in this case, you said this is your manager, I believe. I can't read without my glasses. With my office manager. Okay, so this is your office manager with whom you share the space. And you also stated that you are not directly involved in this communication. Therefore, I believe that the stands we would normally take are not so much an option. This goes back to, I believe, your question, goes back to one of the basics that we talk about in tactical communication, which is there's a 3-step process that I would want to go through in this case before I would even start thinking about what to say in a situation like this. And those 3 steps are, number 1, ask yourself, does this need to be said? Whatever I believe needs to be said to my office manager, does it really need to be said? If the answer is yes, move along to question number 2. Does this need to be said right now? Is this something I need to say right now? Could it wait till later until I maybe had some time to review what I was going to say and do a cost benefit analysis? Ask myself, what's the risk? What would the benefit be for me? Is it worth it? And if I believe this needs to be said right now, does this need to be said right now by me? Those are the 3 things. Does this need to be said? Does it need to be said right now? And does it need to be said by me? If any of those questions result in a no, this does not need to be said. It does not need to be said by me or right now. Or if there's a question as to the answer of one of those questions, I would wait. And my instinct is to tell you to say nothing, but I'm going to add to that. The reason I would say nothing right now is because this does not involve you. And it's a very murky line where I should get involved in someone else's communication, even though I realize you are being dragged into this because you have to be witness to this, and that therefore involves you in some way. However, I would want to think, what would it be if the roles were reversed? Now, you don't like the way that she's communicating with these people. However, there are going to be people who don't like the way you communicate with some other people for whatever reason. Maybe they think you're too Pollyanna. Maybe they think you're too nice. Maybe they think you're too personable when you should be more down to business. Therefore, if I, under normal circumstances, would not want people intervening in my communication, I'm not going to do that in other people's communication. In addition, you're in some way taking away the power from the person that you believe is being treated unfairly. This is their situation to deal with. If they do, in fact, need to stand up for themselves, then that is their job. So maybe if you want to talk to somebody, if you truly want to talk to somebody, I suggest talking to the person who you believe was treated unfairly and ask them. By the way, this is very risky. So I would also do a cost benefit, but ask them, hey, Trixie, as you know, I was there yesterday or today when Jane talk to you that way. And you think you know what I mean when I say that way. I wanted to ask you, because I know that I was not asked to be part of this conversation. I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about that? And what is it that allows you to be treated like that? Or what is it that prevents you from speaking back to her or stopping her from treating you that way? Or maybe I'm missing something. Maybe you don't see anything wrong with the way she's treating you. Can you fill me in a little bit? Because this has been bothering me. So I wanted to bring it to you instead of anyone else and ask you, what gives? What's with that? You know, that's the approach that I might take, going to her. And if you're going to go to her, telling her, I'm coming to you directly rather than going to somebody else. And I might say that if I were to bring this to my boss, and I really warn you against doing that. You know, if you were to bring this to your boss, maybe if you have a good relationship with her, I believe it's a her. I don't know where I got that. I think you said she. Yes. Okay. Yes. Saying something to her such as, you know, hey, Jane, I had to bring something to you because it was bothering me. And I wanted to talk about when you sometimes talk to other people in front of me, the manner in which you talk to them, I'm not used to. And it's a little off-putting sometimes. And I wanted to ask you if there's something that we could do so that I wasn't so much a part of that, or so that I wasn't brought into that conversation, which I am by default because I'm there in the room as you're talking to them, because I don't want to get involved or lecture you or believe that I don't think that I know any better than you. I don't want to get involved in your relationship with other people. But unfortunately, I can't help but feeling as though I'm involved because I'm witness to these conversations, and they sometimes bother me, and I know it shouldn't. So what do you suggest? And maybe if you could bring a suggestion to her, you know, you might be able to say something such as, is there a way that if you have to have a talk like that, or if you have to say those types of things to other people, that it could be when I'm not around? Is there a way that I could be warned in advance? Is there a way that, you know, maybe you could go to them if you have something to say? Now, if this is something, I believe the impression that I got is this generally tends to happen when people come in and talk to her. Maybe she's being dismissive, as you say, because they're wasting her time and she wants to dismiss them. Maybe she treats them, you know, in a hostile manner because there's something you don't know, you know, and maybe that's the best course of action for her to take. The reason I say that is because there just is so much out there that we do not know. And to inject ourselves in one portion, one sliver of a conversation or a relationship that someone else has with another person is just too risky under almost all circumstances to do while getting any type of positive outcome or benefit for me. Therefore, I would assume that you do not know what's going on there. You do not know what's come before this or what goes on after this or what the other pieces are to this puzzle which makes up their relationship. So I would find a way if I were you. Here's what I would do. Now that I've told you what not to do, here's what I would do. If the behavior that is being exhibited in front of you is so distasteful that you really can't stand watching it, when somebody comes into the room, I'm assuming this doesn't happen constantly. When someone comes into the room, stand up and do something else. You know, leave the room, go someplace else. If you realize that you don't want to be part of her personal conversations, but because of, you know, spatial requirements, you know, the office structure, the office plan, you have to be, step out and do something else. If it is possible to take a break, do that. If you need to go to the washroom, if you want to grab a sandwich, a bottle of water, whatever it may be, step out and do that so that you are not being forced to be witness to this. And don't make any bones about it. If she asks you, hey, you know, I've noticed that you keep getting up and going out every time someone comes in. What's that? Tell her, well, I'm not comfortable with the conversations that you sometimes have with other people in front of me. Therefore, I put in the benefit so that I can let you be the manager, manage however you want to do it, so that I can let you be in charge of your relationships without butting in, so that I cannot insert myself into these relationships, which I know are none of my business. I've decided the best course of action for me would be to just step aside, step out, go away for a couple of minutes, and then come back, and that avoids the problem. Is that all right? Letting her know, I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this because I don't want to judge you. I don't want to butt into your relationships. And that might make it okay, and that would be a great way for her to realize, do you think that? Then she might ask you, now that I'm thinking about it, she might ask you, you think that's offensive? What's offensive? What do you mean? What don't you like? That would be a great opener because you've already let her know, I'm not butting in. Might be a great opener for you to then say, well, I believe that when you say XYZ, that is, as you put it, a really hostile way of conveying that message, and I'm not used to that. Therefore, it's difficult for me to watch. I believe that when you are... No, by the way, I was just about to do it. When you say in your letter that she is dismissive or that she is hostile, remember to stick to the facts. And at the end, you can label it as hostile this way. I believe that when you don't look up from what you're doing and you just tell somebody, I'm busy, and then they leave, that seems like a very dismissive way of handling an interruption. I believe that when you say to somebody, get lost, stop bothering me, you always do this. Budinsky is your middle name, whatever she's saying to people. I believe that when you say those things, to me, that appears very hostile. And maybe it's because I'm not used to that. But hostile communication like that is bothersome to me. That's why I leave. So don't say something such as, I think when you are hostile to them, when you are rude to people, when you are dismissive, because that's going to start her self-talk going. You know what I mean? And she's going to be like, what do you mean dismissive or hostile? Do you know how they talk to me? Instead, when I see you do XYZ, stating a fact, so that it just triggers a memory, and they're like, oh yeah, I said that. To me, that appears, and then you could say hostile, or you can say whatever it may be. But try to find a solution so that you are taking yourself out of the situation, because not only do you not want to butt in, because it's very rarely a productive thing to do for anybody, you also have things to do, I realize, and you don't want this on your mind, and you don't want to bring somebody else's challenges and put them on your plate, because you're also depriving that person of their opportunity to work through that issue. If they are being treated unfairly or in a hostile manner, that is their issue. That is something that they should overcome if they are able to. Now, if somebody comes in who is different abled and they come in a wheelchair and she's, putting rods in the spokes of their wheels so that they can't move, and they're, crying about it, that's different. That's helping somebody who is different abled and is not at the same capacity as the other person. Therefore, you're stepping in because you are helping someone who cannot help themselves. That's different. Whether you're in work, whether you're in the office or on the street, I would always help people who are unable to help themselves and are being victimized. It's very rare that we would see that in the office in a modern society. Therefore, that's probably not what's happening. But of course, I would always encourage people to help people who are defenseless. It just does not sound like that is the case. Maybe they might seem defenseless. Sometimes it's really difficult to watch a bird being thrown out of the nest, but there is almost no other way to get them to learn how to fly. Don't grab them and try to stick false wings on them. That doesn't help them fly. Okay. That's my answer there. All right. So for number 2. Okay, Jean, send these over a little bit bigger. Okay, I'm going to increase the font here. Okay. No Name wrote 4 days ago. That's No Name. That is your actual name, No Name. That's unfortunate. Is Dan in a same-sex relationship? Thanks. Thanks, Jean. The question is, am I in a same-sex relationship? And that's funny that you mentioned that, because yesterday, I came out with a video on communication principles. I come out with those on Mondays. Remember to subscribe to this channel for those. And the reason I'm doing those on Mondays is because communication principles are the foundation on which I build all of my tactics. And I think it's a good idea to start your week with a principle that you can then apply to different situations as they pop up. Yesterday's principle, serendipitously, was, part of the lesson in principle yesterday was that I am in a trinity of relationship, and it's a mystery, but it's true, that I'm in relationship with a big R, with myself, with my maker, and with everyone else on the planet, all at the same time. And it's only one relationship. There's no real difference, and it's very difficult to find the line where the line is between the relationship that I have with myself and the relationship that I have with my maker and the relationship that I have with, all at the same time, everyone else on the planet. Those seem like distinct relationships, and they, in a sense, are, but in a sense, they are all one relationship. It is all the same relationship. Therefore, the answer to your question would be yes, I'm in a same-sex relationship with myself. And question number 3. Oh, I see you have 2 on here. Okay, I'm going to answer 2 more. Number 1. This is from the Employee of the Month. Congratulations! And the question is, this was written 1 day ago. The question is, how do you say, I can't stand you and I know you're phony with love? I hope you're not saying that to me, employee of the month, because I would hate for someone at your level, the employee of the month, to feel that way about me. But if you do, I'll give you the answer anyway. Those two the reason that, by the way, she's asking that, if you're not familiar with this, is because in my videos, I frequently say there is a way to say anything you have to say with love. Whatever you have to say. This is exactly how I believe I say it. Whatever you have to say it in a loving way, because the people around you, they deserve that. And you deserve that. So if you have any questions or if you have any challenges doing that, ask me and I'll help. So evidently you feel the need to tell somebody that you can't stand them and that they are phony, but you want to do that in a loving way. Remember how I started that phrase? Whatever you have to say it in a loving way. And the reason I say it that way is because whatever you have to say, we do not have to say that, employee of the month. I can't think of any situation in which I need to tell somebody, I can't stand you, or you're phony. Even if you were asking me to marry you, and I were, if I were asking to marry myself, since, referencing back to the previous question. But if I felt the need to say that to somebody, what's the real issue here where I need to say, where I feel as though I need to say, I can't stand you? Maybe it's, if you're asking me to marry you and I think, wait, no, I can't even stand you. Why would I want to marry you? Well, the real challenge that I'm trying to express here is I don't think we would be a compatible couple. Say that, if you're, let's say, asked to work with somebody or someone asks to work with you, and the reason that you don't want to work with them on a project or something is because you can't stand them and you believe that they are phony. Instead, so what? Ask yourself, so what? I can't stand you. Well, that would therefore probably, because of who I am, make us incompatible when it comes to teamwork. I don't think we would be a good match. Say that. That would be okay, I believe. There's nothing wrong with saying to somebody, well, Charlie, I appreciate the invitation, but I don't think that you and I would be I don't think that you and I would be a good match. I don't think that we have compatible work styles. There you go. Or now that, by the way, is saying something that's loving. I am loving myself by saying, I'm going to save myself from working with this, with this, what do you call it? Well, I'll just say this incompatible person. And when you say, for example, I know you're phony. Do you, employee of the month? Do you know, I'll just say Ms. Month. Mr. Month? Do you know that? Maybe they're actually the most genuine person you've ever known, but you're so not used to recognizing that you see them as phony. You ever think of that? Maybe they are just so honest and upfront with the way they feel about people, and maybe they love everybody, and you just can't grasp that. You can't compute how they are so happy and Pollyanna-ish, going back to again our last question, that just you can't believe it. Therefore, they must be a big old phony baloney. Really? Do you know that? Maybe they are the most genuine person that you know. Maybe they're the most honest and forthright person that you know. You don't know that. And even if you did know that, so what? Again, going back to the cost-benefit analysis and going back to the 3-step process, does this need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? And does it need to be said right now? Very rarely would a simple criticism of somebody need to be said. If I hate the way you talk. My brother, for example, he is the loudest talker and he's a loud laugher. Like when he laughs, he's like, ha, 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 ha. He's one of these people where he will say, that dude is even louder than I am, because he knows how loud he is. And he knows that many people, when he laughs or when he says, hey, Charlie, people will be like, geez, Louise, do you have a megaphone in there? That's okay. You know what I mean? That doesn't sit right with everybody. Some people are put off by that. Some people will get up and move, to the other side of a restaurant because they don't want to be seated next to somebody who's that loud, and it affects their conversation that they're having with the other soft talker at the table with them. And those two soft talkers, we've seen them give us looks, and then they'll get up and go to a different part of the restaurant and just tell the server, I just couldn't stand sitting next to those loud talkers. Well, okay, that's okay. But we don't need to tell the person, I just don't like you. You rub me the wrong way. Now, that's going to happen a lot in life, but that's okay. Not everybody needs to love us. Not everybody needs to like us. And not everything needs to be said. So The question is not how can I say anything that comes to mind in a loving way? Your breath stinks. There's no way to say that. There's no way to tell somebody, for example, you put on a couple of pounds since the last time we've seen each other. With love. There's no way to say that. When your spouse asks you, do I look fat? Do you see me as old? There is no way to say to them. The answer to both of those is yes. In a loving way. That's not possible. Therefore, we step back to the previous question, which is, does this need to be said? And not everything that's in here needs to come out there. We've heard about the filter that's in there. When we think that, or when we start to say everything that is in there, when that just comes right out and that filter is removed, that is a sign of dementia or Alzheimer's or some mental disease. So remember that. To be without filter from our brain to our mouth is a sign of demise, mental demise and decay. You don't want to do that. Okay. That happens soon enough for most of us, Mom. Okay. Final question. Christine Sellers. Ooh, I like that name. Christine Sellers. 5 days ago. This is great advice. Thank you, Christine. I'm not one who enjoys talking about politics in social settings, particularly at work, but I get your drift. But don't quite know how to shut down the conversation without, number one, being rude, and number two, reiterating to the other person that I value my relationship with them, but I don't quite know how to give it without. Okay, I think I get what you're saying. I believe that you're saying, how can I say shut up about politics without being rude and while reiterating that I appreciate you in our relationship, right? That's what you're saying? Okay. When you need to do something like that, shut people down, when it comes to politics, I believe that this question probably came from or was around the video that I did on Don't Talk Politics at Work. I personally have found much success in using the word moratorium. So I'm assuming that you already told her, but if you have not done it, do this. Tell her, let's say that her name is, Trixie. I don't know. It's been a Trixie day. Telling Trixie, for my own mental well-being, I have decided to put a moratorium on any political talk, not just here at work, but even if we're outside of work, because I can't take it anymore. I'm sure you can relate. I cannot take it. So if you would not be bothered by that. If this is a friend, normally I wouldn't ask for permission like this, but if this is my friend, I'm getting that vibe, I might say something like, if you wouldn't be too bothered by that, if that would be okay with you, if you could respect that, I would appreciate it because, as I mentioned, I can't take it anymore. Now, we are human beings. And so Trixie will forget about that. And then maybe the next day she'll say something like, oh my gosh, did you see what happened at the press conference yesterday? And you're like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. You might gently remind her. The way I would gently remind somebody is this: put the benefit first. You mentioned to me that you're very concerned with the relationship you have. Put that first then. When you're going to remind somebody, Trixie, again, because you are so important to me and I value our relationship, I'm asking you to remember the moratorium that I have placed on any political talk. Now, you might want to add, maybe, I'd be happy to listen because I'm always open to hearing whatever you have to say, but I can't respond. For me, all right? So you might want to tell her that again. Hey, Trixie, remember moratorium? Remember that? But before you state it, tell her why. Because that softens everything that comes after it. Because nobody likes to be shut down. Nobody likes to be told, hey, I don't want to hear what you have to say. Because for whatever reason, she believes that you need to hear this. It might be for your benefit, so she thinks. So preface whatever you're going to say with, Trixie, again, because you are so important to me. Trixie, again, because I value our relationship so much, I'm going to remind you about the moratorium that I have placed on this subject. Just this subject. Remember? And if she pushes it again, you might want to say, all right, okay, I can see that you can't help but talk about these things. And as your friend, I'm willing to listen. But that's it. I can only listen. I cannot contribute because I don't have it in me anymore. All right? I cannot. So I'd like you to respect that. And when you tell people, by the way, if you need to gently remind them, using that particular phrase, I'm sure you can respect that. I'm asking you to respect that. You can respect that, can't you? Because it's a very rare person that is going to be like, No, I can't respect that. I'm disrespectful, right? So that is how I would address that one. And those are all the questions that I have for today. Thanks for the extra one. And so remember, if you have a question, make sure to leave it in the comments below and I will answer it in a video response like this. And if you have watched these videos, if you've made it to this point especially, support this channel by sharing this on Facebook and Twitter and wherever else people go to get information like this. And remember, no matter what you say, no matter what you have to say to somebody, this is a very strange time we all find ourselves in. And a lot of us don't even recognize the world around us, but we do recognize the people around us. And I hope that wherever you have landed, after this shakeup we've all recently gone through, I hope that you've landed in a place where you're surrounded with people that you love and who love you right back, because you deserve that. And they deserve loving words from you. So whatever you have to say, you can find a way to say it in a loving way. I can help if you need any. So make sure to leave your comments for help. Send me an email, Dan@Dan Training. And remember, all of these tactics you can find in either my online programs, my online courses at DanO'ConnorTraining.com at the store. And if you get your VIP pass, we're coming up with so many new things. I'm in many ways grateful for the shift. I'm not in any way grateful for COVID. I'm in many ways grateful for the shift in thinking and training that people have gone through lately. So we're coming up with many new things before the price goes up to offset the new products that we've come out with. If you get your VIP pass, remember that you won't ever pay anything more for any of my training online, virtual, live online ever again. So check out the VIP pass if you'd like more training like this for you or your team. And you can find information on that at DanO'ConnorTraining.com. For everyone here at Dan O'Connor Training, this is Dan O'Connor signing off. Oh, Buddy's telling me it's time to quit. Thanks, everybody. I'm signing off.